Guys, it's your girl Great Tate, and for today's video, you guys, I'll be showing you how I hand sew my wigs. So this is a highly requested video, and just so you know, I don't really hand sew wigs very often because I just prefer to use the sewing machine because it's so much easier for me and it's super fast. But anywho, a few people, they've been emailing me, they've been sending me messages, and they're asking me, hey, I enjoyed your last video, or I have a video, a very detailed video on how I sew using the sewing machine. And so people were asking me to upload a video showing how to hand sew a wig. So that's what I'm doing today, y'all. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So as you can see, I'm just putting in my measurements. So this wig is actually for me. So from the front of my head to the nape of my neck, my measurements, it's 13 inches. So I already measured that. So it's front to back, it's 13, and side to side, it is 12. So I do that, and I use my T-pins to secure the sides, y'all. So what I'm doing here, I'm just ensuring I want my wig to be snatched. So I'm just applying my measurements and I'm resizing my wig cap, y'all. So what I'm doing, I'm just, all that excess space, I'm just like pulling it towards the front of the wig, and I'm gonna sew that area down. So just so you know, you guys, if you decide to do this, if your wig cap it's a bit bigger than the measurements that you are using, you wanna, when you're sewing it down, you wanna sew on that area where the elastic is. So you don't want to sew at the front, but you want to sew across the line of the elastic band. So, and I pull it towards the forehead. I pull the excess spacing towards the forehead because I don't want to pull it too much to the side because I'm not using a sewing machine, whereas the area will be secured with the sewing machine at the side. I'm sewing with my hand, so I want to ensure that all that is going to be at the front. So whenever I cut the excess lace from the front, it won't affect the size of the wig, like the wig won't fall apart, if you understand what I mean. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just sewing it down and I'm securing that wig because I want my wig to be snatched, y'all. And just in case you may be wondering, I bought my canvas blockhead on Amazon. So it's 21 inch circumference. So that's the measurement for my canvas blockhead. And also I'm using a mesh dome cap. And the brand for my mesh dome cap, it's the Dream World mesh dome cap. Now this is my new favorite mesh dome cap to use, guys. At first I enjoyed using the Q-Fit, but now I really like using this mesh dome cap. So now I'm just placing my closure to my wig cap, and when you're placing your closure down, you want to place it a 1/4 inch away from the hairline, and also you want to ensure that your front, your closure, I don't know why I keep saying frontal, but you want to ensure that your closure is as flat as possible. And the way I place my closure down, I always kind of like pull it to the sides and pull it back, and that's just how I get it to be really flat. And then you want to sew it down. And when you're sewing it down, I use the blanket stitch method when I'm sewing down my closures or if I'm sewing down my frontals. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm using the blanket stitch method. So you guys, this hair, I bought this hair on Amazon. So I bought 3 bundles and a closure, and I paid $45 for 3 bundles and a closure, and it's 10 inches, you guys. I've never bought hair that cheap in my life. It's my very first time buying hair on Amazon. So, I didn't want to use the hair from my collection. I'm like, you know what? Let me try buying some hair on Amazon. So I bought this hair, you guys, and let me tell you, I don't know. This hair, it's not the best quality. I guess I got what I paid for. It's not the best quality. Um, if you're practicing to make a wig and you don't want anything too serious, fine, you can go ahead, you can use this hair. I'll leave the link in the description below. I'll leave the link for the vendor that I bought the hair from, you guys. So if you're interested, you can purchase hair from them. But I'll tell you, the hair, it's not the best quality. I found that there were a lot of flyaways, and also when I tried applying heat to the hair smelled like it was burning. Like it smelled as if it was melting. It had like a weird smell. So yeah, those are my cons about the hair. But the hair, it was very thin. I find that the bundles were very, very thin. So yeah, I found the bundles were really, really thin. But like I said before, I paid $45 for 3 bundles and the closure. What did I expect to get? So I got what I paid for, pretty much. But yep, just giving you an overview of the hair. But it did its thing. It did its thing. In the end, it really looked nice. You'll see how the wig turned out. So as you can see here, I'm just still sewing down the closure, you guys, and I'm using the blanket stitch method. So I'm just sewing right around. And what I normally do, I normally start from the middle and then I sew towards the hairline. If you want it to be really flat, I would recommend to sew it that way. You start from the middle and then you go towards the hairline. And then you start from the middle again and then you go towards the opposite side, towards the hairline. Because I find that if you start from the hairline to sew all the way around, I find that the hair tends to be, the closure, it tends to be not as flat as how you would want it to be. So, yep, with that being said, I'm still sewing away. And also, you guys, don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet subscribed. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you can be notified whenever I upload any new content. And also, you guys, leave a comment in the comment section below. Let me know if you really enjoyed this video. Let me know if this video was informative, if this video was helpful for you. And also, let me know of any other contents you may want to see. And also, you guys, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. Don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. So if you notice, you guys, I'm now creating my knots. And just an FYI, whenever you're creating your knots, try your best not to do it at the hairline. So whenever you stitch towards the hairline, you want to go back just a bit, and that's where you want to create your knot, because you don't want your knots to be on your hairline. You know what I mean? That's not gonna look cool. So as you can see, my closure, it's secure, it's not going anywhere. And now I'm gonna start sewing on my bundles. And that's the bundle I bought, you guys, on Amazon. You see, it's really like super thin, but what the heck, I have no choice at this point, so I'm just gonna work with it. So what I'm doing here, I'm just creating my guidelines, and my guidelines are kind of like just to help to guide me on whenever I'm sewing the bundles to the wig, the mesh dome cap. So my guidelines are a thumb width apart. So it's nothing, it's nothing special or anything like that. I just kind of like use my thumb to measure the width, and that's where I draw the line. So now I'm just sewing down my bundles to the mesh dome cap, you guys. And as you can see, I doubled my bundles. So I start with pushing the needle through the mesh dome cap, and then I push the needle in between the hole, and then I pull it just kind of like to create a knot. And I do the same thing, and I do it twice pretty much. And you want to ensure that the needle goes directly through the knots because you want to ensure that the knots are secure on the wig cap, you guys. And just an FY, and then after that I continue with a blanket stitch going across. And just an FYI, you guys, whenever you're sewing on the elastic, that's the areas around the wig cap, you don't want to sew directly through the elastic. You just want to sew, you just want to grab the areas at the top. You don't want to go right through the elastic band. You don't want to sew through the elastic, because if you do that, that's going to affect the size of your wig. So it's a possibility that your wig won't fit. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So right here I'm just doing a blanket stitch, and I'm doing that going right across. And while you're doing your blanket stitch, like every other two stitch, you can maybe create a knot. So you'll see from time to time, and I'll do that. So now I'm at the end of the area of my first guideline. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna like create a knot, and then I'm gonna use the turning method. I'm not sure if that's what they call it, but that's what I call it, the turning method, or I don't know. But I'm not gonna cut my bundles. Pretty much I'm just gonna flip it, and then I'm just gonna continue sewing. Because if you keep cutting your bundles, you know, you're probably gonna get more shedding, and we want to get as much less shedding as possible. So as you can see, I just kind of like flip it over, and then I sew it down. And when you're sewing it down, you want to sew through the knots twice again, because you want to ensure that that area is flat, because you don't want it to be bulky at the areas where you're flipping the bundles, you guys. So after sewing that area down, then you want to continue going across with your blanket stitch. And to be honest with you, you guys, it's pretty repetitive from here. So you just keep doing your blanket stitch, going across, and then when you're at the end, you flip it over, and then you sew it down, and then you continue with your blanket stitch, and you just keep doing that until you're finished. And just so you guys, if you're really interested in learning how to sew wigs and stuff like that, I have another detailed video on sewing a wig using a sewing machine, and it's very, very, very detailed, you guys. So be sure to check that out. In my opinion, I find that it's so much easier to sew a wig using your sewing machine. You know, once you're aware of how to use a sewing machine, it's very easy, and it's way faster. Like you can do it within 45 minutes or 30 minutes or so. Like it's so much faster and so much easier, in my opinion. So be sure to check that video out, you guys. So I'll leave the link in the description bar below. So as soon as you're done watching this video, you guys, be sure to check it out. It's very, very helpful, very informative, and very detailed. So now you guys, I am almost done sewing my wig and that's what it looks like. I just have one more track left. And my final track, I always use just a single bundle. I always use not a single bundle. Oh my god, what's wrong with me today? For my final track, I always use a single track. Yeah, I don't double I don't double my final track because I want it to be to look as realistic as possible. You want it to be as flat as possible, so I always use a single track. And then you just sew it down and you want to sew it, you want to attach it to the closure pretty much. Yes, so you want to attach it to the closure. So when you're sewing it down, you want to sew the closure towards the track. So that's pretty much it. And then you sew going right around. So as I mentioned before, you guys, it's the same procedure. You start off by securing your track and then you continue with your blanket stitch until you're at the other end and then you knot your thread. So it's the same thing. It's the same thing. So I'm just doing the blanket stitch going across. And as I mentioned, sometimes you'll see where I'm knotting my thread whenever I'm doing the blanket stitch, maybe like every other 2 or 3 stitches or so. I'll do that. So now I'm done sewing, you guys, and that's what the inside of my wig looks like. It is super neat. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna cut that excess mesh from my cap. And whenever you're doing this, you want to put your hand inside because you do not want to cut the mesh on your lace. Like, you don't want to cut your lace, okay? So whatever you do, just try your best not to cut your lace. So I'm just cutting the mesh from my wig, trying to get it looking all neat. And after this, you guys, I added some curls to this wig, y'all. It looked thebomb.com, but let me tell you, it was a challenge because, as I said, as I mentioned before, this hair was definitely not the best quality hair. Like, the hair had synthetic fibers in it for sure. Like, the hair was almost melting. However, I managed to add some curls and got this wig looking like thebomb.com, and this is what it looks like, you guys. So I really hope you enjoyed this video, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and leave a comment in the comment section below, and give this video a big thumbs up. Stay blessed and keep motivated. Thanks for watching.